It's 6:30 on the 17th of October. I've only played one turn. I usually play a few more before posting a video, but I've been away, just coming back to the game after a week or so away from it. Been thinking quite a lot about what to do, and a bit of actions already. So thinking about it over the last week, getting concerned about Napoleon's position. Like I said before, I think the French have no way of winning this now. I think back a few days ago, their attack around the Galgenberg that went wrong, well, it didn't really go wrong, it just didn't make the success they needed to make, has really sort of set them back, and they've been on the back foot ever since then. So traditionally on this day, there wasn't a lot of action. Napoleon approached the Allies to get a ceasefire, to see what wriggle room he could have. However, Napoleon was in a far better position than he is in the game I've been playing. So there's no way the Allies are even going to entertain that. And I think being so close to Leipzig, they are going to push on the 17th, or at least give it a go. They've got a lot of reinforcements coming tomorrow, so there's no point pushing it too hard. But they are going to try and push on. So the first action of the day started with a massive and very, very successful French cavalry charge over here, right on this far side of the map. There's Leipzig over here. These have been forming for quite a while. Sebastiani's sort of cavalry corps been forming for quite a long time, getting over in between the marshes, over the river. And first light, a massive charge into the French that were the Russians that were holding this area, and actually just swatting them away. I mean, there are a lot of Cossack units in here that are not very good at standing the ground in against formed cavalry, but there's some good cavalry in there as well. And the French came in and just swatted them away. Okay, they've all been pushed back here. You can see there's a lonely Russian artillery units a bit trapped there. We've got all these post-charge counters. These guys aren't going to be charging till their horses recover. But there is some good horse come around here, mainly light, but you can see there's a few heavy horses that are coming around here as well. The purpose for this was to really distract the Allies from pushing on towards Leipzig. At the end of the night, they were only, 500 metres from the walls of Leipzig already. So the idea here is maybe detract some of the coalition forces from there. However, the coalition weren't having any of that. They just pushed hard through here. So we can see there's been some tit for tat along here, mainly cannon fire. And although, you know, the French look pretty good here, they are thin. They are thin. So it'll be interesting to know how much the French want to commit this circling round here when their main route supply line is going to be possibly severed. So through the night, we know that the arriving Russians came through the woods, and they've carried on the fight. They've pushed up. In fact, they were maybe a little bit reckless until, I mean, because we had what's that flag there? That's Neapolitan troops. So it's got some pretty ropey Neapolitan troops there with Ney, but Ney managed to make them hold and force a few units back. However, these guys here, who are let's have a look, get into focus. Okay, so they are the 2nd East Prussians. Okay, I've smashed a hole through here, so there is an danger, because there are lots of forces coming here, that these forces north of Leipzig are going to be cut out. Now, the French do have some reinforcements coming from over here at 9 o'clock, but they're still 3 hours away. And the coalition have some as well, but they're arriving from way over there, so they're not really going to have much impact on this side of the board. So it's not looking good for the French there at all. Now, in response, in fact, the only reserve the French really had remaining was the Old Guard, and they have been sent marching to here to hold the town. As we can see here, we now got Russian infantry within 250 metres of Leipzig. I'm not sure that belongs to there. So you can see they are really pushing on. That's quite a scary position for the French to see, as we can see these units moving in here. Okay, that is a real concern. Now, I do think the old guard will get there in time. At least I hope so. It's going to take them, you know, an hour or so to get into position there, really. But I think, I mean, obviously they will hold them. For the old guard, after all, they're pretty tough. Yeah, it's just a real worry. I'm not too sure. Not too sure how the French are going to hold there for a lot longer. Now, the other attack launched by the French was down here. They're desperate to try and get, this is, remember, this is their supply line down here. Let me move so you can see the whole border, Leipzig here. We've just been talking about these guys here. So here across the river, they've been desperately trying to finish off the Austrians down here. You know, they had a really successful go at them yesterday. They look like they were on their knees. However, they've had a bit of a resurgence. There's quite a few French units around here, but you can see they're marked out of supply. These are basically guys that have routed from the rest of the battle here. They're out of command. They are not that useful, so it is really down to the French forces that were there under Bertrand. And we can see that, well, the problem they've had, well, a few problems they've had, is, yes, these guys aren't very high morale, these Austrian units, but they are big. If you don't break them somehow, they are very difficult to beat in melee. There's just so many of them. The French units have taken a few hits, and they're not huge units. I mean, that's a relatively big unit on top there, but it's just been whittled down. You can see this started up here, and they've been pushed all the way back here. Bit of a cannon artillery duel going on here, and they did make some success around here, but the cavalry that rallied back here in the night come forward and just push these two French units back. So it's not all lost for the French here at all, and I don't think there's any way the Austrians are going to take this town here. But the French really wanted to move these out, because part of the issue we have, as we can see, as the French forces here in this sort of V are getting squashed, their only way out, there only is a way, this road across the causeway, which I mentioned before. So I've been thinking about this last couple of days, and I think really what we've got to do is there's no point Napoleon waiting for all the coalition forces to arrive. We've got to start sending forces across there while we can. You know, the worry is you leave it too late, and as I mentioned before, this just gets clogged with routed, disorganised units, and it's a complete mess. The only problem is, if Napoleon straight away starts pulling forces down here, coalition will get wind of it, and they will just, you know, just launch all-out attacks. The worry, though, really for Napoleon is these units here, because you only need to control these few hexes here, and you've got control of this route here. With these units cut off from there, it's going to be very difficult. Hence why the old guard have been sent to do the job. Okay, along here, there has just been general shuffling back of the French and a shuffling forward of the coalition forces. With a little bit of concern for the French here as well, because there's this large coalition cavalry force here, and they've left an area here to come and work into. So as a coalition player, one of the things I'm thinking of doing, if I could isolate these units up here, because I've got some pretty powerful forces here, we've got this Austrian corps coming across here, we could, you know, we could demoralise or virtually eliminate a couple of corps there if we can do it. Okay, that's the big if. But the French are obviously worried about it, and it's definitely something we're going to push at the coalition, see if we can get through here. You can see that the French have abandoned a couple of the forward towns. There's no way they can hold them. They just don't have the guns. The coalition gun advantage is only getting more and more of these guns are being brought up further and further, so that's not looking good for them at all. So just stepping back, we can see it is not looking good for the French at all. However, they could still draw. There still could be a draw if they don't get too many of their corps demoralised, and it's going to be tricky. It's going to be tricky. So I thought on today, the 17th, there wouldn't be a lot of action, but we're going to see. I mean, the coalition doesn't need to push that hard. They've got lots of reinforcements coming in. Well, Napoleon, the French need to start getting back to Leipzig. They've got this corps coming on up here, so they don't want to collapse it too soon. We need to get those fresh guys in there that maybe can hold the area here, and they need to start bringing guys across here today. I think it's too late to do it tomorrow. How the coalition react to that? You know, they're in reasonably good order, but you know, they've been fighting for a couple of days, a lot of these forces here, so they might look good on the board there, but when you dig a bit deeper, they can be a little bit shallow, though I do think the French forces are looking a lot thinner at the moment. So there we go. So it's only 6:30 on the morning of the 17th, and it's not looking good for Napoleon, but how bad it's going to be at the end of the day, we'll have to wait and see.